Why haven't the billionaires bought all the Bitcoin? In this video, I want to explain to you what my thoughts around this are. Let's get started. I'm going to start with a video of Warren Buffett basically just saying that Bitcoin is worthless, and I want you to think for yourself. What is he missing here? He's missing something. It's pretty obvious if you've studied Bitcoin, but of course, for Warren Buffett, it isn't obvious. So let's watch the video.
At one point this weekend, you said that Bitcoin, and this was basically, you were asked, Charlie said Bitcoin's like rat poison. You were asked about that comment, and you said, well, it's probably more like rat poison squared. Charlie went on in the meeting to then basically call Bitcoin turds.
He is an expressive sort, isn't he? Maybe when he gets a little older, he'll mature.
I just want to ask you about that because it sparked so much controversy, and particularly on Twitter and some of the places where you might expect people who are trading in cryptocurrency to be pretty loud about what they heard. What is it about Bitcoin that gets you guys so fired up?
Well, when you buy a farm, you look at the crop every year and what prices are, and you decide whether it was a satisfactory investment. I mean, you look to the asset itself and what it produces for you. When we buy a business, we look at what the business earns and decide how we feel about it in terms of what we paid. But we are buying something that at the end of the period, we not only have what we bought in the first place, but we have something that the asset produced. And when you buy non-productive assets, all you're counting on is whether the next person is going to pay you more because they're even more excited about another next person coming along. But the asset itself is creating nothing.
So the first problem that he has in understanding Bitcoin is that it's not supposed to produce anything. Bitcoin is what you buy things with. So he says you buy a farm, you buy a business. What do you buy that farm or business with? Bitcoin isn't competing with the farm or the business unless you're using the farm or business as a store of value. So some people are just buying index funds because they want to save for the future. They don't really know what the companies that they're investing in are. So those people are using Bitcoin or they're using index funds as a store of value. So Bitcoin competes with them if you're using them as a store of value. But if you look at the use case for that farm, the farm is there to produce fruits and vegetables, crops, animals, meat. You can't do that with Bitcoin. That's not the point of Bitcoin. So what Warren Buffett is saying here is that Bitcoin is worthless because you can't produce anything with it. Bitcoin isn't the thing that you're using to produce something. Bitcoin doesn't produce anything, and I completely agree with that. You don't use Bitcoin to produce anything. You use Bitcoin to facilitate transactions. You use Bitcoin to give somebody else value if you're going to buy a farm. Let's say you're going to buy a farm, or you buy the farm and now you want to sell the crops that you produced. You want to sell those for something, you sell them for Bitcoin, or you sell them for dollars today. Today, you sell them for dollars. In the future, I think a lot of people are going to want to sell them for Bitcoin. The reason for this is that US dollars can be created out of nothing. You have to put in time, effort, energy to create all of the food that we eat, the oil that we produce, cars, houses. We have to put in time, energy, and effort to create those things, but you can buy them with something that can be created out of nothing. Today, we use the US dollar widely because it's the most trusted currency. Most people expect that it'll have value tomorrow. And the reason for that is that everything else that we had before the US dollar, let's say the gold, the silver, we used salt at some point, we used cattle, we used shells, we used rocks. None of them work in the internet economy. None of them work digitally. You can't send gold over the internet. So dollars replaced gold because dollars are more portable. Now what Bitcoin is doing is it's taking all of the best aspects of gold and all of the best aspects of the US dollar, and it's combining them. So it's scarce like gold, unlike the US dollar, which can be produced at will, but it's also portable like the US dollar, unlike gold, which can't be sent and received over the internet. So what he's missing here is that Bitcoin isn't replacing the business. It's not replacing the farmland. It's not replacing the house, the real estate, the land. It's replacing the thing that you're using to facilitate that transaction. So if somebody wants to buy a house, they may choose to get paid in Bitcoin. It's not like the house is, it's not like the value of the house has changed. You can still live in the house. The monetary value of the house has been changed because of Bitcoin. In terms of Bitcoin, house prices go up, go down forever. In terms of US dollars, they go up forever. So the monetary value has changed because Bitcoin is absorbing that monetary value, but the real value, the utility, hasn't changed. The utility stays the same. So what he's missing here is that Bitcoin in and of itself doesn't have utility. Money isn't supposed to have utility. Money is supposed to be something that you use to transact with. You use it to save. If we start using things that have utility as money, it makes us suffer in other aspects of our life. So, for example, people started using houses as money. That's led to the housing crisis that we have today, with so many people not being able to afford houses. Those are the problems that having fake money that can be created out of nothing cause. They lead to those issues. So what Bitcoin does is it removes those issues. It stops people from having to buy stocks and real estate and gold as a savings vehicle. The people who want to buy real estate and stocks, they can try to put in the effort and they can try to beat the market perfectly fine, or they can buy a house to live in. That's perfectly fine. But if you want to save for retirement, let's say, or save for your children's education, the best way to save isn't farmland. You're not going to go into that farmland and then start uh, planting crops because you want to save for your kid. You're not just going to buy that land for no reason and just leave it empty. There's maintenance costs, there's property taxes. Instead, you can just buy Bitcoin. You can bypass all of those, all of that friction that comes with owning real estate.
One of the interesting things, for example, is gold. If you go back to the time of Christ and you look at how many hours of labor you had to give up in order to buy an ounce of gold, and you take it forward to now, you'll find the compound rate maybe 1/10 or 2/10 of 1%. And then you have to insure it during that time and make sure somebody doesn't steal it from you and everything. But it doesn't produce anything. And productive assets, you can pay too much for a productive asset. But I bought a farm in the 1980s, and every year look at how much it produced the way of soybeans and corn. And at the end of that period, I've still got the farm, and I've gotten some significant income off of it. Apartment house, operating business. But if you and I buy various cryptocurrencies, they're not going to multiply. They're not going to be a bunch of rabbits sitting there in front of us. They're just going to sit there. And I got to hope next time you get more excited after I bought it from you, and then maybe I'll get more excited and buy it from you. And actually, we could sit in the house by ourselves, and we could keep running up the price between the two of us.
I think he's confusing regular cryptocurrencies like the altcoins, the garbage coins that have no value with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the widest available market in the world. Anybody in the world can access Bitcoin. There's no other market like Bitcoin. The people who can access Bitcoin can't access the stock market. They can't access gold. They can't access prime real estate. Bitcoin is the market that everybody on earth can access. It's the only market that has that capability. Everybody on earth can access it. If they have an internet connected device, they can own it. Nobody can stop them from owning it.
But at the end of the time, there's one Bitcoin sitting there. Now we got to find somebody else, and they come to an end. I mean, those.
So, that's a greater fool theory. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, it's buying something because you expect the pool of people who want to buy it because they want to sell it to somebody else will grow, and it's wonderful because it does create a rising price, does create more buyers, and people think I've got to get in on this, and it's better if they don't understand it.
That part is not true. I think that's probably the biggest lie in this video. The people who are talking about Bitcoin, they try to tell everybody to study Bitcoin. And anything that you hear on my channel, on my YouTube videos, I want you to verify for yourself. Go confirm it. I could be wrong. So verify everything. Go learn everything. I want you to go to the website mempool.space, and I want you to go through that website to learn how Bitcoin works. For example, I want you to see every single transaction that's ever happened. I want you to verify that the supply is exactly the way that I say it is. So if we go to block 210,000, since Bitcoin's supply halves every 210,000 blocks, if we go to block 210,000, these are blocks. We can see here the block right before the reward for mining. So the amount of Bitcoin that was produced was 50 Bitcoin. So 50.536 minus 0.536 gives you 50 Bitcoin. The block right after, which is 210,000, every 210,000 blocks, the supply of Bitcoin decreases by 50%, the new supply. So that's exactly what happened here. We can see here the subsidy plus fees is 38.563 Bitcoin. The total fees are 13.563 Bitcoin. Subsidy minus fees, this number minus this number would be 25 Bitcoin. And you can see all through, if we go anywhere between block 210,000 to block 420,000, we'll see that every single block will have a 25 Bitcoin block subsidy. So let's check this one out. 25.037. 25 plus 0.037 gives you 25.037. So let's check another one out here. Let's go to block 400,000. Or let's go to block 40. I'm just going to type in some random numbers here. Let's see if that block has a 25 Bitcoin reward. You can see that here. 25 Bitcoin 25.089 minus 0.089 gives you 25 Bitcoin. That's your reward. So you can go through, you can confirm that what I'm saying here is right. After block 420,000, the block reward goes to 12.5 Bitcoin per block. So let's hit enter. You can see here, another gold block. So block 419,000 gives you 25 Bitcoin. 420,000 gives you 13.076. So subtract 0.576 from 13.076, you get 12.5 Bitcoin. You can go through, you can confirm that everything here is correct. You can go through every single block. I want you to do this. If you can find an aspect of Bitcoin that I'm wrong on, I would be so happy that you tell me, because that way I'm going to be selling. If Bitcoin is going to zero, I don't want to be the one to hold, but I don't think Bitcoin is going to zero. And I want you to confirm that for yourself. That's why I'm telling you to do all of the research as well. Try to learn about Bitcoin, try to put in the time. So what Warren Buffett said there was completely wrong. We want people to understand this, because if you understand it, it makes you a more confident holder. It gives you conviction. It gives you a reason to hold through the bear markets. It gives you a reason to hold through the 70% drops that we're going to go through. At some point, that will happen. So I want you to study it so that you don't sell, and you can keep holding, and you can keep increasing your purchasing power. So let's keep listening to what he's saying here.
If you don't understand it, you get much more excited than if you understand it. I mean,
I agree with that. If you don't understand it, you do get very excited. You might think, oh, it's going to $100 million overnight, but that's not the case. You have to understand that over time, it'll go up, it'll come back down. You can't think of this as a way to double your rent payment. It won't do that for you. It'll do everything the opposite way that you want it to go. So let's say if you think that Bitcoin is going down and you short it, it'll end up going up. So the short term, you never get excited. Every time I buy Bitcoin, I expect to be wrong for 4 years. So over the next 4 years, I expect that Bitcoin is going to go down. At some point after that 4-year period, eventually Bitcoin's price will be higher than whatever it is today. So today's date is June 18th, 2025, whatever the price is today, it'll be higher in 4 or more years. Very, very likely. The chances are that it could be lower, but I don't think that's going to happen. But very, very likely that the price will be higher in 2029. So I don't want you to get excited about the short term. I want you to get excited about the long term. In the short term, Bitcoin's price could drop 50%. But over the long term, it's going to be the best performing asset of anything in the world, because it has that finite supply, because you can verify exactly how much Bitcoin exists by going on mempool.space. This is the website. This is a blockchain explorer. You can go through this website. You can check everything for yourself. I want you to do that because I want you to learn about Bitcoin.
if you buy a bond that says it's going to pay you 4% a year, you're not going to get any pleasant surprises. She's going to pay you 4% a year. But if you can have anything you want to imagine. If you just look at something and say that's magic, you can do it with shark's teeth or seashells or anything. And they did it with tulips in the 17th century in Amsterdam, and they'll do it again. I mean, people.
So there's a few things he said wrong there. The tulip bulb craze only lasted 3 years. It was done after 3 years. Tulips, the value went up and then it came back down and it never came back up again. So it fell 100% or 99.999%. And it's never gone back up. So since 1637, I think it was, it's never come back up. So the tulip bulb craze, comparing that to Bitcoin makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Because tulip bulbs aren't even digital. He doesn't understand Bitcoin and he doesn't even know it. This is the perfect example of you don't know what you don't know. He's comparing Bitcoin to teeth. He's comparing to Bitcoin to all these other things. He's comparing Bitcoin to rat poison. He hasn't been on the internet his entire life. He can't see the value of storing your value on the internet. He can't see the value of transacting on the internet without a trusted third party. He's talking about bonds that give you a 4% return. Why isn't he telling you that the 4% return that the US government is giving you, if you buy US government bonds, is a return in money that's printed out of nothing? Why isn't he talking about that? Why has he never talked about how bonds aren't as risk free as people think they are? It's because he doesn't understand Bitcoin. He hasn't put in the time. He can't see the world without a fiat currency system. He can't see the world without US dollars. He can only see the world progressing in the direction that it's progressing in now, where the people who have assets are the only ones who are wealthy. They're the only ones who can actually afford to live. But on a Bitcoin standard, everybody becomes wealthy. Everybody can afford to live. You're going to see that housing will be abundant. So anybody in the world can buy as many houses as they want to, because at that point, houses are going to be a liability. Just like today, you can buy as many computers as you want to. You can buy as many books as you want to. You can buy as many of whatever, any technology that you want to. Just like that, houses are going to be abundant. So at that point, on a Bitcoin standard, you're going to see that house prices drop. People will use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, a store of value. It'll absorb all of the value from the real estate market. You're going to see house prices fall. They're already falling. They went from something like hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin per house to now 3.84 Bitcoin per house. In 10 years, you're probably going to see them go below 1 Bitcoin, maybe even below half a Bitcoin for the median house in the US. And the reason for that is that Bitcoin is the only asset that has a finite supply. You can compare it to anything you want to. You can compare it to Beanie Babies, but Beanie Babies are not verifiable. You can't send them over the internet. You can compare it to tulip bulbs. You can compare it to trading cards. You can compare it to whatever you want to. But at the end of the day, all of your comparisons are irrelevant because they're wrong.
They like to speculate. They like to gamble. And if you can get something, particularly if you have something half plausible going on, if you had bought gold in 1942 and you say, we might lose the war and we might have to run off to some other country, and so let's put our assets in gold, you would have less than a penny for every dollar you got from owning stocks. Less than a penny. Now, somebody calls that a store of value. I mean, I think they're delusionary.
Okay. Andrew has a question too.
I want to show you something that proves him wrong in the short term. You can see here that in the last 3 years, gold is up 82%, while the S&P 500 is up 59%. 4 years, gold is up 88%, S&P 500 is up 44%. In the last 2 years, gold is up 73%, while the S&P 500 is up 37%. In the last 1 year, gold is up 43%, the S&P 500 is up 9%. Of course, over the long term, it's a little bit different. 7 years, actually, you can see gold is outperforming. 8 years, same thing. After that, we can see here, in the last 10 years, it's up 183%. The value of gold is that it's a bearer asset. So the person who has it knows that it's there. They own it. They know exactly what they hold. On the other hand, when you own stocks, you don't take custody of them. Uh, you don't have something that shows that you are the owner of that stock. You just trust the system. You just expect that you can assume that when you want that money, it'll be there. So if you want to retire with the stock market, first of all, it'll take you 40 years. In 40 years, you have no idea what the companies that you're buying will be worth. there's a chance that the US may not be the biggest economy in the world. So you're concentrating your wealth when you buy index funds, you're concentrating all of your wealth in the US. So we can see here in the short term, gold has outperformed the S&P 500 massively, but in the long term, it hasn't. And I think one of the reasons for this is that more recently, people have started losing trust in banking. They've started losing trust in having a custodian holding your assets for you. So they've been buying real estate. They've been buying, well, gold. They've been buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin is taking a huge chunk of the market for both of these assets.
Hey, Warren, related to this issue of Bitcoin, you saw that Goldman Sachs just last week announced that they were going to create effectively a trading operation around cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular. You've been an investor in Goldman. What do you think of their decision to do that?
Well, they probably think that lots of people are going to get very excited about, well, and maybe already are, but they think there's money to be made trading them. I don't think they're expressing an opinion on the ultimate value. I would be very surprised if the top partners of Goldman are selling their Goldman stock and putting it into Bitcoin. But I want to cover this subject now because my friend Charlie will come on at 8 o'clock and he'll tell you what he will say.
Well, that's my whole entire point. I do want to ask Charlie about it because I think when he talked about the turds, he was referring to this. He said, if you're trading this, it's like watching other people trading turds and deciding you want to get a piece of that.
Well, you're not going to get me to comment on that.
Hopefully, Charlie's not awake and
well,
not watching
the truth is,
right
people
now.
do trade on very crazy things over time. Imagine people selling their homes to buy a tulip in Amsterdam. If people think they're going to make money the next day, and worse yet, if they think somebody else that they know is going to make money and they aren't going to make money, it just draws people in. I could whisper something on this program.
I think he's trying to say here that Bitcoin is a get-rich-quick scheme. I think Bitcoin is a get-rich-slow scheme. I think that people think it's a get-rich-quick scheme because they've heard that you get rich fast by owning Bitcoin, but you don't. It's actually extremely painful. It's one of the most painful ways to make money over time if you don't understand it. But if you understand it, you have to go through the pain of actually putting in the time to understand it. If you understand it, then it's not painful at all. You're okay with waiting for 8, 12 years to make your wealth. If you went for the alternative, which is the stock market, it would take you 40 years to build the same amount of wealth in order to retire. So either you take the 40-year path, the path that Warren Buffett took, or now you have this opportunity to accelerate that and to bring your retirement closer to the present. Instead of retiring in 40 years, you could potentially retire in 12 years, 15 years. If you're able to put enough money into Bitcoin, I think in 15 years, you're going to have so much wealth that you're not going to know how to spend it all.
And kind of the more sillier it was, the more it might react because there's no quantitative limits. If you buy a stock, you say, well, I'll buy it at 15 times earnings, but I won't buy it at 20 times earnings. But when you get into something that doesn't produce anything, there's no checkpoints. There's nothing to reference it to. It's gone up, so it'll keep going.
Yeah, I will say.
I think he was right at the end there. It's gone up, so it'll keep going up. It will continue to go up. It'll go up forever because it's the best money in the world. He said at the end there that there's nothing to reference it to, and I think the best reference for Bitcoin is to see how much it's worth compared to the most valuable assets in the world. So today, Google, Amazon, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, and gold are worth more than Bitcoin. But a lot of the people who can access Bitcoin can't access any of these assets. So, for example, not everybody can access gold because if you wanted to buy 1 gram, it'll cost you about $100. So you have to save $100, and there are people in the world who can't save that much money. So you have to save $100. You have to hope that by the time you save that $100, the price of gold doesn't go up. You have to take care of that physical gold. You have to make sure that little chip of gold, that little chunk doesn't get lost. You have to wait for it to get to you. You have to trust whoever is sending it to you to send you real gold. For all you know, it could be fake. So there's all these issues that are there with gold. Microsoft, Nvidia, all these stocks, the majority of the world can't buy these assets, and plus the wealth is distributed between different assets. So we have all these stocks and we have all these stocks down here. We can see here that even Berkshire Hathaway, the company that Warren Buffett is the head of, it's worth half of what Bitcoin is worth. Bitcoin is worth about $2.1 trillion, while Berkshire Hathaway is worth about $1.043 trillion. So the value of Berkshire Hathaway is literally half of the market cap of Bitcoin. And over time, you're going to see that this number is going to grow much faster than this number. Then it's going to grow much faster than this number, than this one. It's going to grow much faster than NVIDIA. It'll eventually be above Microsoft. It'll eventually be above gold, because everybody on Earth can access Bitcoin. Everybody on Earth can put their energy into Bitcoin. Only a limited number of people can buy these assets, while everybody on Earth who has internet, who has an internet connected device, can access Bitcoin. So I think that the reason why the billionaires haven't bought all the Bitcoin yet is because they don't get it. They're comparing it to the legacy financial system when it has nothing to do with the legacy financial system. The legacy financial system is built on fake money. It's built on pieces of paper that can be printed. So when you compare something like Bitcoin to assets in the legacy financial system, Bitcoin is built with a solid foundation of people who in the beginning got no value out of owning Bitcoin. At the beginning, Bitcoin was free. Those people aren't going to sell. They're going to hold their Bitcoin forever. Then the people who buy more recently, the people who actually understand it, who put in the time based on economics, the people who spend the time learning what it is, over time they accumulate, and they're never going to sell. Over time, there's going to be more and more people who are not selling their Bitcoin. And eventually, you're going to see that people like Warren Buffett are going to own Bitcoin, or they're going to pass away before it becomes the global reserve currency. Eventually, it will become the global reserve currency. It's the best form of money in the world. The most people on earth can save in Bitcoin. Even people who don't have access to the dollar can save in Bitcoin. So what you're going to see is Bitcoin is going to eventually become more widely accessible. More people will own it. A bigger and bigger percentage of the global population will own Bitcoin, or they'll use it indirectly. So banks will give you services with Bitcoin in the base layer, in the background. You'll see better wallets that allow you to transfer Bitcoin more easily for lower transaction fees. Today, Berkshire Hathaway, the company that Warren Buffett runs, owns $347 billion worth of cash. That's their cash reserve. If they were to exchange it for Bitcoin today, they'd be able to get 3.3 million Bitcoin. At some point, they're not going to be able to afford a million. Then at some point, they won't be able to afford 100,000. Eventually, Bitcoin's value is going to go so high that companies, massive companies that run the entire world, won't be able to afford 100 Bitcoin. There are going to be people who own more Bitcoin than these companies because those people are not going to sell. They're not going to give their Bitcoin away for dollars. They're going to give their Bitcoin away for things that they want. So, for example, houses. And how many houses can somebody buy? If you have, let's say, 10,000 Bitcoin, you can build an entire palace and you'll never run out of money. You'll have $1 billion. That palace will probably cost you maybe $100 million. If you go to a cheaper location, it'll cost you even less. So you'll never run out of money. That Bitcoin is basically out of circulation. There's a lot of Bitcoin that can't be moved. People lost their private keys. So right now, Warren Buffett can afford, like I said, 3.3 million Bitcoin, but eventually he won't be able to afford even a fraction of that. If the billionaires keep ignoring Bitcoin, it's to your advantage. You can keep buying. When they buy as much as they can, when they put their entire net worth into Bitcoin, they're going to tell their friends. They're going to tell their family. You're going to see the price move way higher, a lot faster than you expect. So stop thinking about the billionaires, stop thinking about the millionaires, stop thinking about the people who don't own Bitcoin. Think about yourself. Accumulate as much as you can right now, because all of these people eventually will want what you have. They will want the Bitcoin that you have, and they'll pay you whatever you want for that Bitcoin. Because at that point, they'll know that after the production of Bitcoin is done, they're not going to be able to get any more. This is a race and you're getting a head start. Don't complain. Use this to your advantage. While you can buy a Bitcoin under $1 million, buy as much as you can, because at that point, only the billionaires are going to be able to buy whole coins. Only the billionaires are going to be able to buy 0.1. They're going to push the price up to $10 million. Then they're going to push the price up to $100 million. They're going to keep going because they know that people still don't truly understand the difference between fiat and Bitcoin. If somebody is willing to sell their Bitcoin for fiat, we're still early. If US dollars still have value on the market, we're still early because US dollars can be created out of nothing. So put in the time, understand what Bitcoin is, stack as much as you can, get ahead of the billionaires. The billionaires don't matter. Eventually they'll get it and they'll still be able to buy more Bitcoin than you can. But figure it out before them. Leave them. Don't focus on the things that you can't control. If you know a billionaire who's not buying Bitcoin, then that's perfectly fine. It's to your advantage. When the billionaires do find out, they're going to buy as much as they can, and it's no longer going to cost you $10,000 to buy 0.1 Bitcoin. It's going to cost you 100,000. Then it's going to cost you a million. Then it's going to cost you $10 million to get 0.1 Bitcoin. So stack as much as you can now. Put it aside, keep it safe, focus on your security, make sure that nobody can steal it from you, make sure that you don't get shaken out. There's going to be a lot of volatility along the way to that 10 million, 15 million, $20 million price. Embrace the volatility. And I think in 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to be very happy that you made the decision to buy Bitcoin and hold through all of the difficult times that are ahead of us.